Hi, my name's Mark Hayward. This is the Absolute Business Mindset podcast. Here are some of my thoughts, ideas and comments. So I'm talking today about setting goals and how to achieve those goals and how to write those goals down. My thoughts are going to be today are mainly on goal setting and the sort of benefits of that. So it might be something that might be good for you personally. It might be something good for your business or your career or spiritually. So I'm going to talk about some of the ideas that I have and some of the things that I've done to be able to implement goals and why I do them, basically. So let's talk about the personal goals. So I'm going to talk about personal, professional, business and spiritual. So to start on about personal goals, I think every goal setting that you do, you should be doing, just before we go into that, you should be doing twice a year. I always do it in January when there's time to reflect on Christmas and New Year. Obviously, it's a time of New Year's resolutions, so it's very apt to start thinking about goals. But New Year's resolutions are very different to goal setting, and I think evidence that people who set goals for themselves are hugely more successful. And you find that the greatest minds, the CEOs, the businessmen, these guys are setting goals for themselves every year. So this other time I usually think about my goals are July, August time. So in the summer holidays, you can either have a time to reflect yourself, or when other people are not around so much, it gives you a little bit more time to reflect on what your ambitions are. The July, August ones are reviewing really your 6 months of your 12 months. So it's important that you have that time also. So I'll cover a little bit more detail in a minute. So what I want to talk about here is your personal goals. So even if you're focused on your business and that's really what you want to achieve, it might be to scale it, it might be to add more budget to your marketing, it might be sales, it might be innovating. It's important that you also have personal goals in there as well. So they might be anything to do with your family. It might be spending more time with your parents or siblings. It might be spending more time with your kids. It might be seeing them. It might be doing activities with them. It might be spending more time with your partner, whether it's a girlfriend or whether it's a wife or husband. So it's important that you set down personal goals. No one's perfect. And I think you'll find that people that are successful in business sometimes neglect their personal goals. So I would definitely promote that you should think about how you can improve your relationships personally. It might easily be doing a hobby or doing something like a podcast. Don't necessarily always need to be about relationships, but I think they're incredibly important and they should be reviewed every 6 to 12 months because you might be doing one thing better than another. So definitely think about personal goals and think about how you can improve yourself and improve your relationships in your family and friends. So professionally, so careers. Careers often, whether you're a banker, whether you're an accountant, whether you're a lawyer, there's often goals and objectives that are set for when you're in a career. For me at the moment, they are set around the May, June, July time. That actually fits quite nicely into my 6 monthly goals. So by July, I've got goals for my career that I would set down, and equally when I review my short-term goals, which I'll talk in more detail in a minute, you can see that they fit quite nicely and they're thought about at similar times. So professional goals might be getting involved with a new product or service. It might be getting involved maybe with more marketing. It might equally be getting involved in a project, an internal project, an external project, building on skills that you've already got. So these are incredibly important, and they might be getting more sales, doing some more business development, whatever it is. So do think about those in your career if you have a career. Because they are incredibly important to be able to keep yourself checked on those, and you are accountable in your career. Most people have objectives in their career, so make sure they're aligned with each other, and just seriously think about them, because if you want to get promoted, that might be part of your objective, your goal, and therefore you need to think about how you're going to achieve that promotion. So there's steps in between that which you can think about, whether it's to sell more, or whether it's to innovate, whether it's to have better relationships, work with people, certain types of people, certain people in the business. So think about them from a professional/career point of view. The other point, if you're in a business, this could equally be a side hustle, trying to monetize your podcast, for example. It might be scaling your business. It might be making it £1 million business. It might be there's all sorts of business objectives. It might be getting seed funding or some extra funding. So there's lots of things that you can be able to think about. Businessmen often, I think they need to just think about how they fit into their short-term goals, because these 6 to 12 month goals are incredibly important for businesses as well, because if you want to take it to the next level, to the next step, it might be making a business, as I say, 20 million, 20,000 it might be 100,000, whatever the figure is. That's up to you. It might be scale the business. It might be getting yourself out of the business and systemize everything and get the right people in. It might be employ more people. So do think about what you want to achieve in your 6 to 12 month goal when you're setting your objectives and your goals. And spiritually, so that might be praying. Now, some people might, if they're not believers in God or in a God, that might be a bit of a problem. But equally, it might be meditation. It might be that you want to meditate more. It might be you want to pray more. It might be that you want to develop yourself charitably, have a more charitable arm to your business. It might be that you want to contribute more to your giving. And giving up time or money is often a very good way to spiritually be a better person. Money, if you've got lots of money, then it doesn't have as much impact. So equally, giving up your time for something is probably just as important as anything else if you want to be more charitable. So I would say time in that sort of area will give you a lot of benefit. So definitely something to think about for you. Equally, I just want to talk about the 3 sets of goals that I think you should be setting. So number 1 should be long-term goals. Now this is your 10-20 year plan. These are important to write down. It might be that you want to have as I said, million pound business. It might be that you want to be CEO or a partner. Whatever those long-term goals are, might be a salary, whatever is a certain type of responsibility. You need to be able to have those long-term goals that you need to achieve. Now, long-term goals are great, but they should also be set aside and left, because the best long-term goals don't get looked at. I only get looked at probably once a year, maybe twice a year. I'd probably say once a year, because these are the things that you could get totally overwhelmed by if you started looking at them every day. Oh my God, my business has not risen to the level that I want it to be. That could be because of other factors. It could be people have left. It could be economically. So I would definitely say you should think about these long-term goals maybe once a year. And just tweak them every year. Probably January, it seems the best sort of time to do it. But those long-term goals are very important. But don't limit yourself. Don't limit yourself to, just do what I think is right. No, these need to be like really stretching, really, really pushing you. So you do have long-term goals. That would be fantastic. These sorts of goals which we're talking about here are often called short-term goals. Short-term goals are probably 6 to 12 month period. For me, they are 12 monthly, and I review them in July, August, as I've told you about. So So I often think these are sort of the goals that most people think they need to achieve. These should be looked at, these should be analysed, these should be developed, these should be thought about, and equally you need to kind of think about how you're going to achieve each of those goals, whether it is personal, professional, business, or spiritual. So these should be at the forefront of your mind. You should be thinking every time. The thing I like about these sorts of goals, these short-term sort of goals, you know, when you're busy, and there's so much going on, and then suddenly you get an hour or an afternoon, whatever it is, where you're just not as busy as you have been recently. And if that's the case, that's your time to think about your objectives. Are you still on target? And it's a really good, takes up out of the situation, the busy period, takes up out of that situation, think, reflect. Am I on target? Am I being distracted by something else? Somebody else doing something else? So it's incredibly important that you're able to think about those when you get that 5 minutes. So think about those 5 minutes, and do think about those every so often. Are you on target, and how you might have to readjust yourself to be able to get back on target to deliver your goals in your 6 to 12 month period. And then you've got your mantra. So your mantra is something that you want to soak up into your subconscious. So that is something that they're sort of more like daily goals, or things you want at the forefront of your brain all the time. It might be on a spiritual level, praying every day, meditating every day. Equally, it might be setting your to-do list. Whatever those things are, you need to write them down. These are probably better to be about 5 or 6 of them, where short-term goals should be 6 to 10 or 5 to 10, and your long-term goals should be 5 to 10 as well. So your mantra is something you want to think about in the morning and the afternoon. Soak it into your subconscious. We don't know as much as we think we do about the brain, and there's definitely the subconscious that you're able to tap into and get the most out of. So I would say the mantra is something people might completely poo-poo it and say it's not a very good idea. I would say it doesn't hurt, and it's nice to actually have something that you think about in the morning and the afternoon, in the evening, I should say, and equally, I think when you've got them to the point where you've absolutely memorised them, then just have a think about tweaking them, and have you got them absolutely right still. So there we go. So we've got long-term goals, 10 to 20, 30 years. Short-term goals, which are 6 to 12 months. And then mantra, which is twice a day. Once in the morning when you've just woken up, and once in the evening just before you go to bed. So, I found this role of setting goals incredibly helpful. Personally, for me, I found that it focuses my mind, keeps me focused on what I need to deliver. As I say, like these goals that I set for work, which are around July time, May, June, July time, fit very nicely into the 6 monthly review. And as I say, I've felt that I've been able to deliver more things. So what I wanted to do was deliver a podcast every week, which is what I'm doing now. Equally, my goal was to start videoing them and putting them on YouTube, which is what I'm doing now, as you can either hear me on my podcast or you can see me on YouTube. So these are the sorts of things that I wanted to achieve in the last 6 months, and saved the money, got the money, bought the tech. Now we've got it all running and going. So it kind of makes you a better you. It makes you accountable as well. And I think all the things that people have really ambitious goals and what they want to achieve and how they want to get there, and they talk about it, and they talk. You might go to the pub with someone who just wants to talk about how they're going to achieve this and achieve that. If they don't write them down, it's very hard to be accountable for them. So I think it's important for you guys to write them down. So I've got something written down here. You need to think. So you need to think about your goals, your objectives, your long-term goals, short-term goals, mantra. You need to write them down. Write them down makes you accountable, makes you review them. You could tell key people, might be your wife, might be your mum, whoever it is, who is that person that you share some of them to as well. So you're accountable because you're reviewing them, you're writing them down, you're looking at them. But equally, you tell someone else, that doubly makes you accountable, because they might say to you, "Oh, how's it going?" And then you're like, "Oh, I've spent 3 months and I haven't done anything to this objective. Oh dear, got to get back on it." So then we talked about thinking, writing them down, and then do. So Gary Vaynerchuk quote very much that he says on his podcast, on his videos, on his Facebook, you've got to do. It's all great thinking, writing down, but you've got to get out there and do them. You've got to do your podcast every week. You've got to write your blog. You've got to sell more. You've got to achieve more. You've got to pray more. You've got to meditate, whatever those things are. Got to get up and do them. I'm not a one for your 4 o'clock in the morning starts. I get the idea, like getting that sort of peace and quiet before everyone else wakes up. I get that, but equally, I want to spend some of my evening with my wife. So if I went to bed at 8 o'clock or 7 o'clock, I'm not going to see them. And because I work the hours that I do, that's precious to me to have that time with my wife and my kids. So I'm not one for a 4 o'clock start in the morning, but equally I think it's important that you find time to actually do. Well, now you might be an early starter, which might be 6 o'clock. You might be a late and a night owl and work till midnight, whatever it is, whatever the way your brain works and the sort of good times and bad times of working. It's very hard in a career to sort of not have you're on all the time, and it's hard to say, well, I'm not good at, let's just say 11 o'clock in the morning, which is my coffee time. Not good at 11 o'clock in the morning, I won't have any meetings, but someone else puts a meeting in, you have to do it. So you do have to be mindful of your peaks and troughs, but equally it's not that easy to be able to not work at 11 o'clock, for example. So I would say it gives you added focus, it makes you a better you. It's helped me personally on focusing and building things. So I would say it's incredibly important to have these goals in your life. Right, I'm going to stop there. I think I've talked enough. If you've got any comments, please do share them. I'm happy for you to sort of critique me on what you think goal setting is all about. Equally, this is the Absolute Business Mindset podcast. You can catch me on iTunes, on Spotify and Stitcher, and on Google Play. You can check me out on this webcast on YouTube, so please check that out as well. That's you probably the easiest way to be able to find me is Mark Hayward Business on a search, or Mark Hayward Coaching on a search on YouTube. You'll find me there. Equally, there are lots of different avenues to be able to find me on iTunes, on Twitter as well. So please check me out. I would love to hear your comments and your thoughts.